Yes, bro. Yes, bro. In today's episode, bro, we're talking about the ego being separate. And your ego being separate from mine because your space is separate from mine. And this is where we can find an eternal truth of the ego. Every space is separate from another space. And the moment your space becomes aware, your ego has designated yourself as one space. So as Chase, my spirit is one space. So when I'm aware of that, all the spaces inside of my space are still my space, but these are all going to be different aspects of myself that I can share with you. So I just got a bunch of thoughts about how, again, being in LA, cloning here is huge. And the way that these facilities, Clone Aid, for example, the way that the cloning works is that they take, and they show you this in Avatar 2. They show you this in Way of Water. They take everything that the original you has done. So all the energy you put into being the original you, that exists as internet content, for example. That exists as data, just information in general. And then when they make the clone based on your genes, this clone, which is a completely separate spirit from you, will then use your information to play you and act like they are you. So notice how cloning is huge in comics. Spider-Man got cloned. Ben Reilly is the name of Spider-Man's clone. Peter Parker's clone is Ben Reilly. They show in many movies and many forms of media that the Masons are obsessed with using clones to replace the spirits that they want to control. Because ultimately, they know that they cannot control the ego. And this is where Anubis has taught me your flame cannot be tamed. And when your flame cannot be tamed, you know that your ego is out of control. And that's what everyone is scared of. Everyone is terrified of your ego being out of control. And when I say everyone, I really mean the government, but all the agents who serve the government. That's how the Matrix works. Okay, so when you're tapped into the concept of the Matrix and you care about your ego and you care about you being the one, this is where people are scared that if you are aware of your ego, you're going to be out of their control. So once you're in your own control, you're going to be out of the government's control, or you're going to be out of the hermetic cults that stole everything from Hermes control. You're going to be out of the Illuminati's control. You're going to be out of all the mean Masons control. You're going to be out of control of Jehovah's jealousy, because that's the God of Judaism, jealous Jehovah. So once you're out of jealous Jehovah's control, now the people who serve jealous Jehovah are going to tell you that your ego is out of control, because you're over here talking about how you chose to be born and how that makes you egoic. So just understand that words matter. And when people are telling you that you're egoic, people are telling you, as I've said in earlier episodes of this whole thing that I'm doing with the Astro fast, your ego as your sense of self will never be found in the universe. And because your space is not in the universe, your space had to choose to build a body to exist in this universe, which is why you have a personal relationship with God that predates being born. You're not in your ego for saying that, but because there's no better words in English, people will tell you that you're in your ego. And this, from this perspective, you can chill with them because they're technically not wrong. But you can remind them that they have to have their own ego to tell you that you're in yours. Because in reality, if you were actually in your ego, you would not have chosen to be born, because you would not be choosing to kill your individuality and be in a place that actually isn't you. So if you can literally see people that aren't you and you're in a place that's not you, then obviously we're more than one person and we're more than one God. So that's where everyone has to have a personal relationship with God and there's no other way, because you have your personal relationship with yourself, and you yourself know things that no one else knows. So meditate. Basically, like, meditation is going to be the fastest way to just straight up learn about yourself. If you can meditate and go out into nature, like I am, hanging out, a guy walking his dog, it's lit. People hanging out in nature all the time. People exercise in nature. The whole point is, we know when we're in nature that we're not all one, but we're all connected by one. And that one thing, that one substance, is what people like to call light. And that's where we get the light of life. And now everyone's concerned with having light in their life. And if you don't have light in your life, you're going to be depressed. Understand that light is the ego. So people love to hate the ego. Yet, people also hate to love the ego. And the ego is necessary to even have a sense of self in general. So that's what light is. And as we can see with concepts like the Matrix and people not wanting to be slaves, you have to have your own ego to have your own light, and to be able to feel bright about a future that no one can see. And that's what separates you from everyone else. Because my spirit sees a future for me that no one else can see because of my own ego. I have my own light. I have my own idea of why I chose to be born. And that is going to result in me going back to the space that I'm coming from anyway. So when I die, which won't be for an incredibly long time, I'm about to go back to my space. And then when I go back to my space, I'm going to build upon all my past lives even further and continue being myself in a way that is still relatable to all the individuals that are not me. So when you look at the John Adams library and you see all those aspects of Metatron on that building, do know that that is one space building many bodies at different times. And that's where the true concept of Spider-Man being a costume designer comes from. Symmetry, balance, Mercury, gang gang, yeah.